It's a great honor for me to moderate this roundtable today on such important topic as constitutional reforms in Uzbekistan. I would like to start and to give the floor to the Executive Director of Press Club Brussels, Europe, Laurent Brier. You are very welcome.
Thank you. Minister Norov, Excellencies, as I said regularly, I'm not a journalist. Nobody is perfect. So I can say their colleagues, and I prefer to say their friends, and especially today to welcome our friends from Uzbekistan. I'm very honored to welcome you all. When we launched this initiative 10 years ago, we launched a diplomatic platform and permitting to embassies in Brussels to become a press club country member. And the Uzbekistan embassy was at that time one of our first member. And thanks to you, Mr. Norov. He was one of our first diplomat press club member. And now our diplomatic platform, it's has now more than 400 diplomats from 60 countries. And so the press club is home for you and for the dream team of the Uzbekistan embassy. So as you know, the press club is not an old press club. Vienna and Birmingham is a 150 years old press club, but we are probably in Europe with 450 events per year, the most active. And Brussels has been elected at the presidency of the International Association of Press Club. It's a 40 years association based in Warsaw. And as we chair currently this association, till next October, we invite the Tashkent Press Club to join our next Congress in London. And we will promote the candidacy of Tashkent to host the next Congress, Worldwide Congress of Press Club. And so one more time, thank you for hosting regularly your event at the Press Club. And as I'm an Uzbek cuisine addict, I very much appreciate your excellent diplomatic initiative with many more opportunities to taste the plov. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you all. And as you are probably traveling a lot as minister, and I will honor you with an honorary card of membership of the Press Club. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to give the floor for welcoming remarks to the one of the most experienced and most appreciated diplomat in all Central Asia, former ambassador to European Union and the NATO, former General Secretary of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and acting Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Vladimir Norov. You are welcome.
Dear members of European Parliament, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is a great pleasure today to make such presentation with your participation, with my friends. I cordially welcome all of you to the events dedicated most important social political events in Uzbekistan, constitutional reform. I very glad to come back. I have some feeling I coming back to my home because I was 2 times ambassador Uzbekistan in Belgium, in Brussels, and 2 times head of mission Uzbekistan in the European Union and in NATO. It was me in 1995 at 6 as the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs to head the working group for organize the participation of the first president in Florence in Summit European Union for signing agreement about partnership and cooperation. I miss you. I honestly say you, me and my family miss you, miss Brussels. But I'm glad to see our European friends and partners with whom we maintain close, fruitful, and constructive cooperation. And I would like especially thank our moderator, Mrs. Grigula, and speakers from the European Parliament in European External Action Service. Dear participants, today Uzbekistan is at an important stage of its development. The large-scale program of comprehensive reforms continues in the country under the leadership of the President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. The main goals of the reforms is the steady continuation of the process of transformation of Uzbekistan to the democratic, secular, and social state based on the rule of law, with strong and open civil society and developed market economy. In other words, we believe that the implementation of the adopted in the beginning of this year by initiative of the President Development Strategy until 2026 will allow us to build the new Uzbekistan, fundamentally new state that provides wide opportunities to use the public services in order to further improve the life of every person, where people can openly talk about their problems and work together to solve them. That provides an opportunity to ensure justice for everyone, and citizens of which are equal before the law, regardless of their social status. At the same time, in Uzbekistan, the main principle must be how the leader of our country also stated, that not the people must serve the state bodies, but the state bodies must serve the people. It is clear that it is not an easy to achieve this goal, but the most important on this path is to follow the democratic reforms. The President of Uzbekistan, in his last statement dedicated to 31st years of independence of our country, firmly stated that we shall never deviate from this path. No matter how hard it may be, we should only move forward. Dear ladies and gentlemen, as you all well aware, our country carries out an open, friendly, neighborly, and pragmatic foreign policy aimed at turning Central Asia into the region of stability, security, and prosperity. Today, thanks to this policy, trust and mutual understanding with the countries of our region have been strengthened. At the same time, the priority of enhancing friendly relations and strategic partnership with all states worldwide is being actively implemented. Important steps have been taken in deepening mutual beneficial ties with the EU and its member states. Recently, we had finalized negotiation on the enhanced partnership and cooperation agreement between Uzbekistan and the European Union after 26 years of signing agreement, partnership, and cooperation. And I'm glad that I can contribute for finalization to this, signing this document. We're looking forward for accelerating the process of internal procedures and sign these documents next year in the, by organizing visit of President of Uzbekistan to Brussels. This document is intended to bring our relation to a qualitatively new level. I would like to express my special gratitude to the European Union and its member states for their firm and unwavering support for the large-scale reforms being implemented in our country in recent years. All this is the same time is happening again the backdrop of complex, rapidly changing global processes, new challenges in the global economy with the negative impact of pandemic, as well as a difficult geopolitical situation, including around the region. Ladies and gentlemen, certainly it is natural that various difficulties and problems appear before us in the implementation of such a large-scale reform, as mentioned our leader. However, to overcome these difficulties and to ensure the irreversibility of this political and economic transformation, we have started work on improving and strengthening the constitutional framework. It should be noted that the Constitution of Uzbekistan, which in action was adopted about 30 years ago in the difficult condition of the first years of independence, the struggle against legacy of totalitarian and Soviet past. Many articles of the current constitution do not create the necessary condition for the implementation reforms in large scale. Today's Uzbekistan is not the same Uzbekistan that was 30 years ago. Our nation today is not the nation of yesterday. More than 60% of the population makes up the youth under the 30 years old. They grew up in new democratic Uzbekistan, and their political consciousness grew even more thanks to the dynamic and rapid reforms of last 6 years. So these young people request the continuation of the transformation of Uzbekistan to develop a democratic state with a deeply developed market economy. This young man is more than 60%, as I mentioned it, and they contribute a lot today. That is why constitutional reforms are a requirement of the time. They are dictated by the logic of democratic transformation. The updated constitution should create a solid legal basis, a guarantee of new Uzbekistan long-term development strategy. The constitutional reform is an initiative of the people and parliament of Uzbekistan and the political parties which represented in our parliament. Constitutional amendments would become norms of direct action aimed at guaranteeing and protecting personal, social, economic, political, cultural, and environmental rights, interests of citizens belonging to various social strata of society of our country. The new constitution will be also aiming at improving legal framework of Uzbekistan foreign policy. It is proposed to include that Uzbekistan will pursue a friendly and peaceful policy with all countries. This will undoubtedly make it possible to maintain the progress achieved over 6 years in relation with foreign partners and create a solid foundation for strengthening regional peace and security. I would like to say that today in Central Asia is strengthening mutual trust and mutual understanding. The new definition now is used by many experts, foreign experts, this Central Asian spirit. And first time in the framework of fourth consultative meeting in Cholpanata, Kyrgyz Republic, first time in history of our countries by leaders of our countries signed a treaty for friendship, good neighborliness, and cooperation. According to the current legislation, the parliament can independently amend the basic law. However, the president proposed to consider the draft constitution at a national discussion and adopt it through a referendum. It will ensure the direct participation of the people in the constitutional reforms. So, the new constitution of Uzbekistan should be a people's basic law, a real people's constitution. During the national discussion from 21st June, over 150,000 proposals were received on the draft constitution. 67% of them were put forward by young people under the age of 30s. Moreover, as part of the preparation of the draft law, we have used the main international standards, advanced foreign experience, in particular, the constitution of over 100 countries of the worldwide, which have amended their constitution over the past 5 years. In general, the constitutional reform was carried out in an open, transparent, and free public discussion, opinions and proposal of people, interests of all segments of the country's population, foreign experts were taken into account. Currently, the Commission is summarizing all the proposals and soon will set a date for the referendum. Today, the independent mission of the OEC, ODIHR, OEC Parliamentary Assembly, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the Association of World Electoral Bodies, International Foundation for Electoral System, and other regional and international organizations, as well as observers from various foreign countries, are expected to observe the referendum. Dear friends, the detailed information on specific areas of the constitutional reforms and amendments will be highlighted by our high-ranking members of delegation, comprising of the members of the Constitutional Commission, who are the chair and vice chair of the parliamentary committees. We also have with us leadership of the most prominent analytical think tanks of Uzbekistan. We would also appreciate to hear your feedbacks and inputs. Thank you for attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Okay, it was not in a program. I hope Mr. Chernetsky will come back. Super. So, now I would like to give the floor to the Member of European Parliament, Vice Chair of the Committee on International Trade of European Parliament, Mr. Ilyu Winkler. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, dear colleague, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished Minister, Your Excellency, Mr. Norov, distinguished Ambassador, Your Excellency, Mr. Kakimov. Thank you very much for this invitation, and let me tell you that this session, which just started 1 week ago, the work of the European Parliament after the summer recess, started for me with a very nice cultural event. I'm sorry I was not able to be there at the opening of the photo exhibition on the occasion of the National Day of Uzbekistan last week, but 1 day later I visited the exhibition, and I have to congratulate you, and also I have to tell you, Minister Norov, that you have a very, very excellent team here with your embassy in Brussels and to the institutions of the European Union. Then I also am happy to express a few views today on the constitutional reform of Uzbekistan, because even when we speak in the Committee of International Trade in the Parliament, and you know that we have done it often, then we speak about values that are values of the European Union, as the rule of law, as the human rights, engagement with civil society, and so on. And I am happy to see from the documents I have received from you that those are also the values of the constitutional reform in Uzbekistan. So I understand that there are strong measures about support for civil society institutions. I also understand that it is a process of involving civil society in the reform of the Uzbek state. Then I understand that there are intentions and plans to build social partnership between NGOs and state bodies, and also that non-interference of state bodies in the work of civil society and NGOs is a principle of the constitutional reform, which I all salute, because they all are values of our own, of the European Union. Then I saw various key documents that have been published, and also they have arrived in the European Parliament, and I think that is very important that you keep us informed in the European Parliament so that we can understand the processes that are happening in Uzbekistan. We saw national strategy on human rights, we saw state policy on interethnic relations, we saw a strategy on gender equality and countering extremism, which is a problem in the European Union also today. So I think that those are very important documents. Of course, implementation will be the measure of those strategies and documents, but they are all very important first steps. And I would say that if we look back to the last 2 years only, relations between the EU and Uzbekistan are gathering more consistency, and they are improving. You, Mr. Minister Norov, you mentioned that you have signed on behalf of Uzbekistan the PCA in 1996, but we have now the new framework. You also have mentioned it, which is the enhanced partnership and cooperation agreement. And this is already more than a framework, because this is already a full-fledged mechanism of cooperation between Uzbekistan and the European Union. It speaks about areas like foreign policy, security, conflict prevention, crisis management, and also includes provisions on trade and investment. And I think that is also very, very important. And coming from the Committee of International Trade, I will just mention briefly that GSP Plus was granted in April 2021 to Uzbekistan. I think that it's very important. Trade preferences have to be used better and better, more and more. But also we have there in the GSP Plus, of course, provisions which are very important for the European Union today, because we have now more attention, for example, on labor and environment protection, more than 10 years ago, I would say. We have more attention on sustainable development, because that's the key notion of what we are building, also in trade, but also in political relations. So I think that this demonstrates the support of the European Union to Uzbekistan reforms and modernization. And I would say I was able to visit, as you know very well, a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, Uzbekistan. And I would say, you said that Uzbekistan today is not the same that 30 years ago. And I would say, Minister and dear colleagues, that also Uzbekistan, I did not see it today, but I imagine from what you are telling that it's not the same Uzbekistan as 6 or 7 years ago, because it has changed. I have my personal experience of 7 years, but I understand that change is on the way. So also I could mention, just to finish, the very important mission of the GSP Plus monitoring mission in March this year, and the feedback was positive. This is very good because this positive feedback coming from EU officials from Digitrade. Also, I imagine today there will be a repetition of such a positive feedback. But anyway, they have this positive feedback from External Action Service, from Digitrade, and I think that shows that things are moving and things are happening. So in conclusion, I just would like to acknowledge once again your efforts, and I would like to wish you good luck in the future endeavors. And I would say that maybe I'm not, now Mr. Czarnecki will be hearing, I will repeat this for him. I would say that if today we have to vote on Uzbekistan in the European Parliament, you would get a positive majority on enhancing our relations between the EU and Uzbekistan. So good luck and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winkler. As Mr. Winkler already told, that European Union always was a good friend for Uzbekistan and vice versa. I also was in Uzbekistan last time, 4 years ago, and I am sure that Uzbekistan today is completely different as 5-6 years ago, because so fast development in Uzbekistan as it happened last 5-6-7 years, I didn't see before in any country. So, and it is normal and common practice for states time by time change constitution or regularly amend constitution with new proposals. And this project of new constitution is very, very important because there is a lot positive and good changes: human rights, media, free press, environmental rights and environmental law, equality between people, and of course it all will benefit country in a total. Yeah. So, as a first speaker of our roundtable, I would like to introduce Mr. Dulyakov. He is a director of the Uzbekistan-based think tank Development Strategy Center. He is a keynote speaker, so he will give us the more detailed view on changes, what's in the plan. You are welcome.
Your Excellencies, dear friends, dear guests of our event, thank you very much for your interest towards Uzbekistan's reforms, towards Uzbekistan. We really appreciate your cooperation with Uzbekistan, with Uzbekistan's mission to Brussels. Thank you again. As was already told, informing the society, openness, raising awareness is a priority currently in Uzbekistan by all means, and the same thing concerns the constitutional reforms happening currently very actively in Uzbekistan. That's why the government officials have openly talking to people on what else needs to be reformed with regard to the constitution. Therefore, as you can see, different activities have been carried out to inform the society, to talk to them, to listen to their opinions on the further reforms, to ensure important principles, just like I mentioned, openness by all means. And as you can see, people and the parliamentarians are using different means of communication to express their points of view, be it mass media, be it face-to-face meetings, be it electronic portals that were established just to hear the people. And as a result, people, as you can see, are actively expressing themselves. By an example, we can see that more than 150,000 comments, proposals were submitted from ordinary people to the Parliament's Commission on Constitutional Reforms. And I should mention that all these processes are being constantly on systematic basis analyzed. As you can see, the Commission analyzed that based on gender issues, based on age, and our minister noted that more than 60% of our population are young people. That's why, as you can see, that 67% of proposals were made by young generation. So they support the constitutional reforms as saying that this is my constitution, this is my Uzbekistan, and I should be active in this. Then the analysis also were made based on the regions who are mostly active in contributing with their proposals, as you can see. And very much important to note that Uzbekistan has been also actively cooperating with the compatriots living abroad for several years, and Uzbekistan has been also asking their contribution in the reform processes, including constitutional reforms, because they have gained certain life experience, professional experience in different spheres. That's why, as you can see, Uzbekistan is also involving compatriots living abroad in this very important stage of reforms. Then I should also mention that the constitutional reforms also require certain examinations in terms of, as you can see, legal examination on the legality of those proposed suggestions from the side of the people. Then, moreover, gender legal, as you can see, examinations have also been carried out. And very importantly, on compliance with human rights, be it local, be it international, regional, all these standards have been, of course, examined in collecting ideas and proposals from the reforms. And we should also note that when drafting this very important document, Uzbekistan's Parliamentary Commission on Constitutional Reforms also studied very carefully the national legislation, values, and law application practices, historical experience of Uzbekistan, and very important to note, international best practices. Be it at the guidelines of international organizations or practical experience of specific Western countries. This is also very important to note. Then we should note that because of a strong political will of the President of Uzbekistan, some of the foreseen reforms are already being implemented in real life of people. But what people want is that they want all of these initiatives to be continued on systematic basis, and they want all of these changes already happening to be foreseen in the main document of Uzbekistan, in the Constitution of the Republic of Uzbekistan. And that's why one of the main principles of the reforms being carried out currently is, as you can see, ensuring the human and civil rights and freedoms of the as a highest goal of the state. So all of these principles and reforms are being carried out in this based on these important principles. And dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to mention on some of the provisions on guaranteeing the rights and freedoms of a person that are being proposed by our citizens that they think are important to be included in the constitution of New Uzbekistan. So one of them is a country which adheres to international best practices, international legal standards. Uzbekistan wants to specifically say that the death penalty in Uzbekistan will be prohibited. Another very important issue is following the rights and interests of people during detention, arrest, and keeping them under detention. That's why, as you can see, people are suggesting that a person cannot be detained for more than 48 hours until a court decision is made. Very important to note, dear ladies and gentlemen, is that all suspicions of guilt must be resolved in favor of the suspect, accused, or defendant if the possibilities to eliminate them are exhausted. That's very important to note because there were several cases when law enforcement agencies brought a claim at the court, and if there was a suspicion, then it used to be dealt in favor of the law enforcement agencies. That's what Uzbekistan is currently trying to eliminate, that if there is any suspicion, then of course they should be resolved in favor of a citizen, because of the principle established by the president that human dignity is above all. That's why this is one of the very important provisions. Similarly, when suspicion arises during application of a certain law towards a person, then of course these type of suspicions of course must be from now on resolved in favor of a person. This is very important to note, because not always laws are drafted carefully, not always they work in reality. That's why this type of cornerstone principles are being planned to be established in the constitution. Then we should also note that people used to lose their close ones for several days, even for several months. Sometimes that's why at the same time people are suggesting that at the time of detention the person must be explained their rights and grounds for their detention in a language they understand. So simply put, Miranda rights are being suggested by people so that the rights and interests of people are very well protected during the detention. And the good thing is in a language they understand, because Uzbekistan is a country with, where more than 130 nationals live, and to secure, of course, peace, stability, religious tolerance, inter-ethnic tolerance, Uzbekistan is taking all these measures, of course, to take care of a fact that they will be explained in a language that they understand for what they have been detained. Another very important long-time problem Uzbekistan's people have been facing is the fact that the conviction of the person and the legal consequences arising from it used to touch upon the future interests of the relatives of those persons who were convicted. That's why, as you can see, another suggestion is that the conviction of the person and the legal consequences arising from it shall not be grounds for restricting the rights of their relatives. So what we mean is that people, if a person was convicted, his relative, be it a son, be it a brother or sister, were not allowed to work at a certain position for the government. So this was a restriction in their rights and interests. That's why this is a long-time problem, and this already has been in practice for a couple of years with the initiative of the president. But what people are suggesting is that this should be foreseen in the new constitution of Uzbekistan. And as I said, this is a very important change expected. Another important issue is that in practice it happens that there are some contradictions or inaccuracies between people and government officials. in practice, it happens to be that there are some contradictions, there are some misunderstandings between public officials and ordinary citizens. And in this case, the Constitution is about to foresee that these type of contradictions, of course, will be interpreted in favor of people. This is also important in ensuring human rights and interests. Dear ladies and gentlemen, all of these reforms, as you can see, are directed to solve important problems that make the lives of people, ordinary people, easier and ensures the rights and freedoms of people, as you can see, by eliminating long-waited problems. Another important issue I want to mention is in the economic sphere. The Constitution is about to foresee that the state will provide, as you can see, favorable business environment and investment environment. And for that, as you can see, the Constitution also is about to foresee a norm on eliminating unfair competition and monopolization. Very important in these processes, dear ladies and gentlemen, is to ensure property rights. That's why the Constitution is about to set a norm that property is inviolable and will be protected by the state. This is very important to note. Another important is that issue for the entrepreneurs, because lately Uzbekistan has been supporting entrepreneurs very much. President of Uzbekistan have been meeting with entrepreneurs face to face and ask the government to meet them on constant basis. That's why the Constitution is about to foresee that the entrepreneurs will have the right to carry out any activity not prohibited by law, and they, as you can see, will have the right to receive any unlimited amount of income from entrepreneurship, because this is very important to note. Entrepreneurs should have this freedom. Otherwise, they were hesitating to show their incomes. They were reluctant to hide all their profits. And this provision that is about to be foreseen in the Constitution will give them more freedom, will allow them to work more and make more profits. Dear ladies and gentlemen, this is very shortly what I wanted to tell you about, and more detailed information is available on the materials that we distributed, and they are also available if you go through the QR code that we provided. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tulyakov. Yes. Yeah, maybe you can disconnect this system just to remove battery or what.
Challenges around us.
Yeah, this is not pleasant. Okay. Let's continue. Having heard that more than 150,000 suggestions were implemented in new draft of Constitution of Uzbekistan, it's really very serious and big amount of work our Uzbek colleagues did. Me, as a former member of European Parliament, and there are colleagues, acting members of European Parliament, they know what does it mean. But even in European Parliament, we, I think, never received 150,000 different suggestions. It's really a huge amount. And it's very important that human rights is a priority in new constitution. So now I would like to give the floor to the member of Constitutional Commission, Deputy Chair of the Committee for International Affairs and Interparliamentary Relations of the Legislative Chamber of the Oliy Majlis of Uzbekistan, Mr. Yurayev.
Good afternoon, dear member of European Parliament, dear participants of the roundtable, ladies and gentlemen. I am very glad to see you, all of you, and have great honor to participate and with a floor in such important event dedicated to the constitutional reforms in Uzbekistan. In my brief report, I would like to focus on some important aspects, especially to the social and environmental rights of citizens, which are proposed to include to the Constitution. First aspect which I would like to underline is that it is proposed to introduce
yeah, but maybe you can just disconnect the sink and remove battery. Yeah, and it will silent.
First aspect which I would like to underline, it is the introduction to the Constitution of the concept of welfare state. According to this concept, the state will take measures aimed at improving the quality of life of socially vulnerable categories of the population, creating conditions for them to participate in public and state life on equal basis with other citizens, and expand their ability to independently provide their basic vital needs. The second aspect, several amendments are aimed to strengthen the institution of the family. It is proposed that the state creates social, economic conditions necessary for the full development of the family. The draft constitution also takes into account the interests of the child. Parents and persons replacing them have the right and obligation to support the children until they reach adulthood, to take care of their upbringing, education, as well as healthy, full and harmonious development. The third aspect, it is health care. Constitutional mechanisms are being strengthened to ensure the rights of citizens to receive qualified medical care and a healthy and favorable environment. It is proposed that the state takes necessary measures to develop public, private, and other healthcare systems to ensure sanitary and epidemiological well-being, to create conditions for the development of various forms of medical insurance. The fourth aspect, which I would like to focus, it is ecological rights and environmental protection. For the first time in Constitution, it is proposed to include the ecological rights of the citizens. According to the new proposal, the state takes necessary measures for the protection and restoration of the ecological system, sustainable social and economic development of the Aral Sea region. As you may know, the problem of the Aral Sea has remained to us from the Soviet era, and now our country is trying to convert Aral Sea basin into a zone of environmental innovation and technology. Of course, the introduction of a special norm to the Constitution will support the efforts aimed at improving the environmental, social, economic, and demographic situation in the Aral Sea region. The fifth aspect, it is the development of the youth. As stated above by Minister Norov, 60%, a little more than about 60% of the population of Uzbekistan is youth, and specific constitutional mechanisms are considered to be established in order to support educational, physical, and spiritual development of the youth. The sixth aspect, the draft constitutional law establishes the status of pedagogical workers, teachers. It is proposed that the comprehensive strengthening of the status of teaching staff is the goal and responsible task of both society and state. Particularly, according to proposed norms, it is not allowed to interfere in pedagogical activities, in professional activities of teachers, as well as obstructing the performance of the official duties. At the end of my speech, I would like to emphasize the following. There is no doubt that all above mentioned and other amendments to the Constitution will serve to ensure such important principle as Uzbekistan is a welfare state. The proposed amendments will certainly contribute to the well-being of the whole nation, development of an open and fair civil society, establishment of social, democratic, and legal state. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Yurayev. It's really good to hear that in new constitution there is emphasis on socially oriented state where good living conditions will be provided for each of Uzbekistan citizens. Now I would like to give the floor. Maybe somebody can report on progress. There has to be white small plastic key to reset alarm system. Just to put in a system. I would like to give the floor to the member of Constitutional Commission, Deputy Chair of the Committee of the Legislative Chamber of Oliy Majlis on Innovation Development, Information Policy and Information Technologies, Mr. Abdullayev.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, excuse me in advance for my perfect English. Can we start our presentation? In Parliament in Uzbekistan, our committee is responsible for questions which related with freedom of speech and information. In my speech, I would like more about these norms. The political course of New Uzbekistan is closely connected with reform in the information sphere, ensuring freedom of speech and information. Over the last 6 years, is implementary of its development strategies, Uzbekistan has achieved good result in this area. I cannot speak about this. You can to see my presentation. Number of websites registered as mass media figures you can see. You can see very good growth, all of figures, very important economic figures. For example, internet growth of amount of internet subscribers and price of internet traffic. Next, you can see some figures about media market in Uzbekistan, and you can see that private share of this market. 63 point is private sector and only 36.5 connected with governmental bodies. In other words, Uzbekistan has a good position of the process of development information sphere and aims to improve them. Consider it is it was for me.
Yes, it's for you, Mr. Yurayev. It's for you.
Now, some words about articles in the Constitution of Uzbekistan that directly regulated of information sphere. There are two articles in the Constitution of Uzbekistan that directly regulated of information right of citizens. There are Article 29 and Article 30. The update draft Constitution process significant change to both of these articles. It is proposed to present them in following edition. You can see 29 article. Is very interesting part of them. You can see everyone has a right to access and free use of the internet network. It's very new for our constitution and for constitution of many countries. In this case, I want to say that and 30 article is also proposed to be significantly changed. The proposed variant looks like this. If earlier the obligation of provide public information related to the rights of citizens was only for state bodies, now this circle is expanding. This will the responsibility of all organizations and their officials. In addition, citizens will have the right demand of deletion and irrelevant and illegally collected data. As we can see, the present formulation meet all modern democratic standards in the field of information human rights and create a good foundation for providing openness of the activities of government authorities, free access of society to information. In addition, it is planned in the draft constitution to introduce norms that ensure the information right of citizens to specific types of information. For example, information about process of forming and executive the state budget and government debt, information about course of court proceedings and investigations, reliable information about nature, environment, and ecology, protection of his personal data, and others. Summing up, I want to note that, as you can see, the procedure for adoption and content of constitutional norms are very democratic. They are designed to establish a close dialogue in society and ensuring accountable of government institutes to citizens. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullayev. In terms to build democracy in a country where law is ruling, press and freedom of press and media, it's very important. And it's really good to hear that in Uzbekistan you put a lot of attention on this aspect, on this topic, in this new draft law of new constitution of Uzbekistan. So I would like to give the floor to the next speaker, first Deputy Director of the Institute of Strategic and Interregional Studies under the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, Mr. Namatov. Floor is yours.
So thank you very much for giving me the floor. Dear guests, His Excellencies, members of the European Parliament, it's a great honor for me to speak at today's event and share my vision of the constitutional reform which is being implemented in Uzbekistan. as it was noted, I would like to focus on such an important aspect of the constitutional reform as further strengthening the role of civil society in building the new Uzbekistan. Leo, would you please start with my presentation? Yes. Yeah. So once again, I want to stress, and it was repeatedly mentioned before me, that the main goal of the constitutional reform is to build a humane, democratic, legal, social, and secular state to form an open and fair civil society. The new constitution is designed to give a sustainable and irreversible character to the reform process of fundamental transformation of the state system and public administration, which was launched by the President Shavkat Mirziyoyev since 2016. The main essence of this process is to ensure the respect, observance, and protection of the honor and dignity of the citizens, and guaranteed protection of inalienable and inviolable rights and freedoms. We understand that achieving this ambitious goal is not easy, need time, and requires the consolidation of effort of the entire population of Uzbekistan, close interaction between the state authorities and civil society. Or, as the President Shavkat Mirziyoyev noted, society itself must become the initiator of reforms. All decisions that relate to the rights and legitimate interests of citizens must be carried out in close dialogue with them and after their approval. Basically, the constitutional reform should fundamentally change the paradigm of thinking and principles of behavior in the state system and public administration. In New Uzbekistan, not the state, but the individual and society, the interests and rights must be priority. That is why the new draft constitution significantly strengthens individual rights and freedoms, considerably increases the role of civil society, the responsibility, accountability, and transparency of the government to the individual and society. In particular, already in the draft preamble, it is stated that the people of Uzbekistan seek to build an open, fair, harmonious civil society. It's important to mention that the term civil society is used for the first time in the draft constitution. Moreover, first time a separate section in the draft of the constitution devoted to the institutions of civil society. In particular, it establishes that political parties, trade unions, public foundations, other non-governmental organizations, citizens' self-government bodies, and the media forms the basis of civil society and determine its content. The new obligations of the state are being set in the draft of the constitution. For example, the state should ensure respect for the rights and legitimate interests of non-governmental organizations, create equal legal opportunities for them to participate in public life. Government will implement measures to support civil society institutions, ensure their participation in the elaboration and implementation of the state and socio-economic development programs, and provide partnership between state bodies and civil society institutions. It is prohibited state bodies and officials' interference in the activities of non-governmental organizations. These are very important innovations. For the first time, into the practice of state building in Uzbekistan are being introduced institutional guarantees of constitutional rank, of freedom of activity of civil society. Moreover, the civil society is turning into the guarantor of efficiency of democratic reforms. The new constitution is given to civil society institutions the right to participate in the governance by means of public control of the activities of state bodies. So as can you see, the constitutional amendments significantly strengthen the legal guarantees of the free functioning of civil society institutions. We believe that this will give a powerful impetus to the democratization of the country, the participation of citizens in this process, increase the accountability of state bodies to the people as the main source of the state power, and ultimately ensure the inclusiveness, transparency, and effectiveness of the ongoing reforms. In general, the constitutional reform will be a consistent implementation of the new state policy aimed at radical transformation of the system of state and public administration, designed to ensure the irreversibility and sustainability of democratic reforms where the individual rights and freedoms are the main goal. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Nematov. Thank you, our dear Uzbek friends, for coming to European Union, to Brussels, to the capital of European Union, to share with us your very important news and your very important actions to implement new constitution. And now I would like to give the floor to the Deputy Managing Director of Europe for Europe and Central Asia of European External Action Service, Mr. Devin.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon already. Dear Minister Norov, Excellencies, honorable members of European Parliament and of the Uzbekistan Parliament. A pleasure to be here, and after an excellent meeting this morning between High Representative and Minister Norov, which is auguring very well for the two important events that we will have in Uzbekistan this year, in the great beautiful city and historical of Samarkand in November. We will have the EU Central Asia Ministerial Meeting, and also an event specifically on developing connectivity, in other words, developing the connections of goods but also of people between Europe and Central Asia. And today's events, but also these meetings that I'm alluding to very much are at the heart of the EU strategy for Central Asia, which was reaffirmed in 2019, and where human rights, rule of law, and independence of the judiciary are also very much in the heart of it. And I'm very happy that today we are supporting Uzbekistan's transition to a pluralistic democratic system based on rule of law, human rights, and also civil society, and also avoiding all forms of discrimination. We believe this is the way for the future for sustainable development, and this is also what we have reflected recently. A few weeks ago, we have initialed our enhanced partnership cooperation agreement with Uzbekistan, which represents a new level of our relations, because it opens the cooperation to many new areas, way too diverse to mention here. I don't want to keep you away from the plough, particularly after you've suffered the sirens announcing the plough. Indeed, the 5 priorities that the President of Uzbekistan has highlighted in his speech of its independence a few days ago, and I congratulate Uzbekistan for its 31st anniversary of independence and the great achievements that have been made in just basically one generation. But these 5 priorities on particularly education, on justice, on more economic dynamism and privatization, access of medical services and water sanitation are also very much at the heart of the cooperation area that the EU has, either bilaterally or regionally. So very much we support the objective of the reforms, and indeed, if these become irreversible, it's only for the good. Previous speakers have abundantly mentioned some very important features, particularly in criminal law, like the habeas corpus, like the judiciary. The President has highlighted in his speech that there can be no interference in the justice system. And this is also something that's very important for us. All these are also part of our GSP Plus preferences. And as you know, that GSP Plus is not a one-off granting. It is also accompanied by a monitoring, not only by officials of the institutions, but of the European Parliament. And you all know that it was not always easy to speak of Uzbekistan European Parliament in the past. So I'm very happy that now we have a completely different, I would say, trajectory. Perhaps couple of words on the process, because the content of the reform is important, but the process as well is important. And in this regard, consultation is important. We have seen, unfortunately, in July, with the events in Nukus, that things which are not properly consulted can lead to room for exploitation or misinterpretation or worrying or even worse. In this regard, you know that the European Union is funding the Central Asia Rule of Law program that is allowing the countries who wish to do so to call upon the Council of Europe Venice Commission for an opinion on its constitutional reform. And so we certainly recommend that. Secondly, and this has been discussed before, I was happy to hear previous speakers speaking of the role of civil society. Indeed, this is extremely important as a watchdog, you could say, for governments. But I must say also that we were a bit worried by the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers on 16 June in this regard. And this is to be discussed elsewhere, but we want to be sure that there is no undue interference by state bodies with the freedom of civil society. So I think that the upcoming NGO code in this regard should facilitate development of a free and fair civil society. So I don't want to be too long, all the more so because I think this afternoon, we are boringly consensual. Just want to say that the European Union stands on the side of Uzbekistan, wants to support the reforms of President Mirziyoyev, and that we are committed for the long term in Central Asia and Uzbekistan in particular. And we have evidenced that not only by new bilateral agreement, by the conference that we'll have this year, by the GSP Plus, and also by support for WTO accession of Uzbekistan. The EU bilateral trade with Uzbekistan has almost doubled, as the Minister was mentioning this morning, in 1 year after GSP Plus. This is good, but we can do more, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. I would like to ask and give floor to the member of European Parliament, chair of the European Union Uzbekistan Friendship Group in the European Parliament, Mr. Chernetsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I remember very well our very close cooperation in the EU Central Asia delegation, the European Parliament, and thank you for that. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again, Mr. Norov in Brussels. I also remember very well your very successful mission more than 15 years ago. And I hope your comeback here will be very good excuse or reason for very serious discussion about Uzbekistan and also our EU-Uzbekistan relations. Thank you firstly for inviting me for this very important and prestigious conference. Few remarks. Firstly, in my opinion, the essence of the updated constitutional amendments is based on the will to build an open, harmonious and fair civil society. We heard about it, by the way. The aim is to transform the public system and design a sustainable democratic reform that puts the individual in the center, bearing their rights and freedom. President Mirziyoyev confidently made the emphasis for the reforms to be about the individual freedom, dignity, honor, and other fundamental human rights, mentioning the natural right to life, covering the forbiddance of death penalty or the re-education of those serving sentences. He made it clear that the reform shall honor those fundamentals. More importantly, the government in Uzbekistan, President Mirziyoyev, wishes to consolidate the principle of Uzbekistan is a welfare state in the basic law. It's, I think, very, very important. Welfare state creates decent living conditions for everyone based on the principle of social equality and justice. The reforms also put in light the importance of entrepreneurship, which is a strong driver in the national economy in Uzbekistan also. Every person will have the right to work in favorable conditions, earn decent wages, have access to qualified medical care, and carry an environmental responsibility. In this order, the importance of education as the basis for the creators of the new Uzbekistan is highlighted. Finally, to enhance the power of the people, a separation of branches of the government will help give more responsibility to smaller and more local bodies of authority and people's representatives. I think it's also really important. It's also mentioned that the foreign policy shall be built to respect human rights and freedom and territorial integrity of states. These are few of many other points that will be brought out of the reformed constitution, but it's enough to introduce the basis of the update and the wish to ensure stability in society and the continuous development of the country. Finally speaking, those reforms are extension and update of existing Uzbek cultural principles which enhance the prime values the constitutional reforms wishes to put forward. The state puts the people of Uzbekistan and their values and tradition forwards. The President Mirziyoyev spoke well. The people are the only source and the author of the constitution. From our side, from European Union side, from European Parliament side, we should support for the future closer cooperation between Tashkent and Brussels, between Uzbekistan and European Union and Uzbekistan and EU member states, also my country, Poland. I think it's our responsibility. I am optimistic, and I think conference like this, like today conference, can be important step forward. Thank you, and dear guests, good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Czernetsky. And now I would like to give the floor to the Member of European Parliament, Mr. Mariani.
Minister, Excellency, dear colleagues. Minister, he had the chance in 1993, when I was just elected as a French Member of Parliament, to do my first mission in Tashkent. It was a very young country, and for me, it's the occasion to show how 30 years after Uzbekistan has done an exemplary job of adapting to the challenge of the 21st century. As the President of the Republic reminded in the Majlis on 20 June 2002, these transformations are taking place with and for the Uzbek people. This is a crucial element of the process currently underway in your country. The popular and identity-based ensuring of the common law is the great challenge facing democracies around the world. Your program is particularly ambitious, banning the death penalty, reforming criminal procedure, promoting freedom of movement, combating usury and establish a welfare state, promoting women and in particular the employment of mothers, and many other reforms. These reforms find their coherence in the very special attention you pay to human dignity and to its most immediate and natural sphere of the exercise, the family. The social dimension of human nature is moreover a common feature of Islamic and Christian civilization. In this respect, the importance attributed to Mahala in your reflection is symbolic. Natural sociability, that of neighborhood, and its shared civics and family reference is the heart of a nation. It is indeed from the understanding between families that the tradition of a people, the strength of a country, and the importance of a civilization are born. A civil society that is truly at the service of promoting the common good and concerned with the life of the nation is born of this condition. In a national development that is specific to each country rather than in a model dictated by international opinion. International confidence in Uzbekistan is high, as evidenced by the World Bank increased support of your economy, served by the government's ambitions to promote entrepreneurship and private ownership. So I can just encourage your national ambition to keep serving the great story of Uzbekistan amid the opportunity and perils of our times. Central Asia is the heart of the development of globalization, so it's the mutual interest of all our country to get closer to Uzbekistan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mariani. And now I would like to open the floor for questions. Oh, you're welcome.
My name is Frank Schwalbe-Hoth. I'm one of the founders of the German Greens, first Green MEP and about 20 times in Uzbekistan, which was not always easy because a lot of my friends, a lot of people in Brussels think democracy is like a miracle. It's there. No. It takes a generation and we see it's on the right way. Before I ask my question, I would like to tell you a secret. Someone from Uzbekistan, Asia, someone from Australia, Murad, and someone from Egypt, Akmel, managed that the fire alarm stopped. Therefore, a special applause to them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good. Okay. Now my question. We in the European Union are very fond of bringing people together, especially neighboring countries. And you have a neighboring country in the north, Kazakhstan, who started a similar process early this year. Therefore, my question, to what extent are you cooperating, coordinating what you are doing, what we have just heard, with what is happening in Kazakhstan? The second question is on Pakistan. That means the western part of your country, which is a, I don't know how to phrase it, semi-autonomous region, whatever. They were not happy with this text. Why? Because they feared, rightly, wrongly, that some of their privileges might go away. Two questions, Kazakhstan and Pakistan. Thank you.
So, Mr. Norov?
It is working. Mr. Schwalbe-Hopp, vielen Dank für Ihre Frage. First of all, when I explain it to you, the Central Asian spirit, what's mean? It's mean that we share experience which we have to each other. It's mean we studying from each other, we sharing what we achieved, and now we're joining our efforts for overcoming the difficulties and challenges which facing our country. There's certainly the process of democratic reforms began in Uzbekistan in new stage after the election of President Shavkat Mirziyoyev, who opened country, who made tremendous efforts to integrate Uzbekistan in Central Asian common policy from one side, and from another side, he made the liberalization in all sphere of our life, in political and economy and humanitarian area. In all area of our country, liberalization became of priority of his policy. Certainly, when he announced the new Uzbekistan, what means the new Uzbekistan where everyone can be sure that his rights and interests will be protected, where everyone can openly say about his problems and be sure that his opinion will be taken in consideration from one side. From other side, he will participate in finding solution for this solution of this problem. That's why the first steps decision which he made, it was opening president reception over the country. It was 1 more million in the first years, more than 1 million appeals was received from citizens over the country. In parallel, this online reception was made, and this process is showing that openness became the reality in our country. And New Uzbekistan became attractive to all countries over the world, and at the same time in our neighboring countries. Now, after election, President Tokayev, he recently made the program of reforming country and announced new Kazakhstan. So we sharing the experience of each other. So all our goals to make peace, stability in the region, and deepening the process of democratization. But it's possible only by achieving stability and peace in each of our country. We understand the difficulties of transition time from one side, and two countries understand we are, as we can say, driving force of Central Asia, as Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. That's why, as I mentioned, the problem of transborder rivers, using transborder rivers. Mr. Devin well remember strong position of Uzbekistan, which I announced it here as ambassador. And at the same time, the issue of delimitation and demarcation of the our borders. For example, with Tajikistan, 25 years we had not direct flight. It is a more serious problem. By joining efforts, we made possible. Now is the last visit of Mr. Rahmon, President of Tajikistan, to Uzbekistan. He said today 25,000 people during day crossing border to do direction. The relatives, we saying that Uzbek, Tajik speaking, it is one nation speaking in two languages. We Turkish speaking nation, Tajik is Persian speaking, two family. But nevertheless, our culture is common, our religion is common, our tradition is common, our history common. We cannot, I am from Bukhara. I speak 3 languages in family and outside. It is normal. In Uzbek, in Tajik, and Russian, certainly. Today, English and German. So, and that's why stability, it is important. We, first in the visit of Mr. Rahmon, 2 leaders, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan leaders, give start to construction of hydropower station on Transborder River in Zarafshan. 2 hydropower stations will be constructed, each of them 100 megawatt. unbelievable. Yeah, 10 years before, it could impossible to think about it. Mr. Devin now well about it. And that's why we, Uzbekistan, and now providing policy for industrial cooperation. Because Uzbekistan last decades were only exporter of raw material, but we are double landlocked country. In this world too, double landlocked Liechtenstein and Uzbekistan. But our neighbors, the same locked country. We have tremendous potential, energy, mineral reserves, and so on, but problem of transportation. That's why we more focusing on achieving and developing processing industry. With decades, we sold cotton for $800, $900 million per year. But we were under the pressure. Forced labor, prohibited child labor. There was a problem for ratification by textile agreement with European Union from 2011 because it was such and cotton campaign, 100 more big brands boycott announced to Uzbekistan cotton and textile. Only in April they abolished their such boycott. But last year we exported $3 billion textile material and plan in 2016 26 to come to 9 billion. We completely eradicated forced labor and child labor by developing state-private partnership on cotton area, and we are made a possible cluster system. And today, no one it is needed to go to because the business interest, the interest for became it so attractive that president is putting push for developing textile industry, or some silk production. Uzbekistan, in beginning of independence, produced only 2,000 tons. Nevertheless, historically, silk became over the world in 7th century in Liège. When I worked here as ambassador, their son Lambert, when died, his coffin was covered with a silk material brought from Bukhara. Zandani, it is named, Zandanicha. It is Tang Dynasty period in China, in Hangzhou. When I visited their silk museum, they wore the same material like in here in Liège, like in Lyon in the museum of Liège. So it was great, but we lost this. In Soviet time, we lost this. We raised it now to 30,000 tons last year, and will rise by using Chinese experience, 4 times producing silk per year. It is very hard work, and my mother was agronome. From my child time, I worked with my mother in this area. But from 1 ton, child labor, Soviet time, from first Kazakhstan for producing. We produce 100,000. We made now with Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. We're doing the same. And Azerbaijan, we began to produce. Why? Because we need economic development, sustainable development. It will make the ground for stability and security. Karakalpakstan issues, it is the issues which we have from legacy of Soviet time. It is RLC problem, devastated. The sea which give per year 100,000 tons of fish, it is 0 now. And 5 million hectares of salted land, which grow up every year, covering not only Central Asia and ice on the mountain area in Tian Shan, Pamir, but they're going beyond of this. We financing a lot by initiative of President made trust fund in RLC trust fund for improving life condition there, the planting 1 million more trees on the bottom, and at the same time creating new job places and construction of big enterprises and processing our mineral reserves and so on we in Karakal, Pakistan made. If who was 10 years before in Karakal, Pakistan and will come back and to see it is tremendous changes. But at the same time, the labor places, it is needed more. Every year we need 700,000 labor places in our country. That's why labor migrants in Russia, perhaps 2 million. The same from Karakal, Pakistan, the same is labor migrants, but who outside of Uzbekistan? Unfortunately, there is under influence of many forces, extremistic, terroristic, with several our young people arrested on Russian territory for joining ISIS activity. That is reality. And what this, when it is announced, the amendment to our constitution and their proposal made from parliament, local parliament of Karakal, Pakistan, because no one said, okay, it is not needed because we one country, we have common such approach and they see this benefits from which made the central government of developing the Karakal Park region. They are living 2 million population. They are perhaps 2 million in this Karakal, Pakistan, 40% Karakal Park nation, but others, it is 130 nationality living in this area. The problem, some proposal to abolish this right for autonomy, it was proposed by local deputies and by local such government and non-government agencies. And that's why when there were open discussion, it was as announced by all of us that it was will be possible made by parliament law. But we brought this to for referendum to make it discussion by if there was some hidden interest of Uzbek authority, it will be not go by such risky way. They will be made it by parliamentary law and everything is will be okay. But it will be not be open. It will be not the interest of people. It will be, you cannot do good jobs by this way. And that's why some forces outside, we know them, now investigation made by our general office, but at the same time we created the independent investigation commission, headed by our ombudsman, and the same time members of parliament of Karakal, Pakistan, deputies, Karakal Park by ethnicity the same, and from central parliament and government and some non-government organization. And they making investigation and found that they use it, the social networks, and use this for mobilizing young people by financing the activity, illegal activity, some alcohol spread it, and drug. All of this showing it is in social networks. If some have interest to look, can find these pictures. But at the same time, President immediately in the first days when this was demonstration and activity, illegal activity, by fighting, by throwing stones, and by law enforcement agencies, and to occupy the state agencies. Then President immediately went and said, okay, if it is not, it is agrees this is take out, not problem. Why? But it is not needed. We are living in open democratic states. It is not used forces. If we will go by this way, you cannot establish stability. You cannot develop any normal country in any part of the world, in developing country or developed country. That's why it is important was to understand this decision of to make this amendment. And President third time recently week was here. He said yes, we know what is staying behind of this unrest or such attempts, that's why additional investment, additional labor places will be opened in this region, and at the same time for improving of healthcare and a lot. And Trust Fund under the auspices of United Nations made initiative President and its General Assembly of United Nations announced it and established it. We thank for European Union because 6 million invested by European Union, and Uzbek government more than $10 million, and 20 more million they accumulated. And we're looking forward to our partners for improving situation in this region. Mr. Schwalbachop, ich glaube, ich antworten alle Ihre Fragen. Dankeschön.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Second question. Maybe we can be a little bit brief. Yeah?
Welcome back to Brussels, first of all, Mr. Narov. I'm Alberto Turkstra from the Brussels Uzbekistan Friendship Group. My question, brief, maybe to Mr. Nematov or to anyone who wants to take it up, is what will be the new role of the Mahala system under the envisaged by the constitutional reforms in order to improve their ability to act independently from the state? Thank you.
Yeah, very good question. So I can speak a lot about the role of the Mahala, but you are right, the role of Mahala will be strengthened in the new constitution. First of all, the independence of the Mahala will be strengthened, and in the new draft constitution it's fixed that the Mahala can function and has the right to function independent from the executive authorities. It's the main constitutional guarantee which will be introduced in the constitution. And I think it's a very good decision because the Mahala plays a very important role in Uzbekistan, and its role is increasing every year. So we have adopted last year a new concept of development of civil society until 2026. And in this concept, the role of Mahala was strengthened. So I think so short answer, it's enough. We have a little time. But I can tell you more when during our discussions.
Thank you very much. And third question goes to the lady in the third row.
We have a history of 30 years attempt to develop such a regional cooperation mechanism. One of them, which is functional and effective, it is International Foundation for Saving RLC. This mechanism united all 5 countries of Central Asia. But before this was Organization for Central Asian Cooperation with a supranational some structure, but it not worked. And it disappeared. Why? Because it was different internal and external policy priorities in this time, and at the same time the potential for cooperation was not enough to join efforts in this way. And now in 2017, President Mirziyoyev in Samarkand conference on Central Asia issues, there was Mrs. Mogherini too, there was ministerial meeting, Central Asia and European Union. He announced to create such mechanism, consultative council. This consultative council have not any supranational structure. It is for discussion together by leaders, the all issues, common problem, challenges, to find common solution. And immediately in this conference, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan's Abdurrahmanov, yes, he said immediately, he called it to his leadership and received the permission to organize first meeting of such consultative meeting in this time Astana it is named. And in Chalpanata in Kyrgyz Republic on 21st July we had 4th meeting. And now on this 4th meeting we had 4 documents. First of all, treaty on the friendship, good neighbor, alliance and cooperation. Second, it was conception on
cooperation in framework of international organization to make common position over some international or regional issues or some initiative which we made. And another one, the program of green development. And another one, I now should remember. Yeah. And what is important, this ground, it is this document prepared on third meeting in Avaza in Turkmenistan. There was third meeting of Consultative Council. Their experts prepared. It was a process of during two discussions. So it is showing the common interest of our countries to join efforts. As I told you, new environment appeared after the Uzbekistan exchanged this regional policy. After this, all disputed issues find solution. We now made the issues of the delimitation now resolved with the Tajikistan, and now demarcation process going. With Kyrgyzstan, we are now planning to visit in October the visit of our president, and we will sign final document on this. With Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, we previously resolved this issue in beginning of first decades of our independence. That's why when we now all countries witnessing, when we join efforts, we can achieve a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Minister. So, one more time, I would like to thank our guests, my former colleagues from European Parliament and from External Action Service for contribution to this discussion. And I will not be that democratic now. I will take power in my hands. I will not give you a floor here, but I think there are a lot of lovers, not only Mr. Brie, a lot of lovers of Uzbek cuisine, and we can continue discussion just around the corner, enjoying nice surprise what our Uzbek friends prepared for us. Yes, for you, sure.
I'd like to thank you, all of you, for your participation in this presentation. Once more, I thank you for your personal contribution for strengthening EU's Central Asian and Uzbekistan cooperation. And I would like to inform you on with the 31st years of independence, the President made decision for awards to our foreign partners. One of them, Mr. Devin, he awarded with the Order du Slik, friendship. That's why, welcome to Uzbekistan.